apparently Gen Z are facing a job-pocalypse.
There are still companies where people in the C-suite have never touched a Google Doc.
Nobody is job ready after university.
This is the first year I didn't get any bookings,
Wow.
any inquiries.
Are you supporting the Black-owned initiative? We can't give the responsibility of uplifting our community to others. Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new Techish. It is me, Michael Bahane, and we are back for a brand new season. Welcome back, Abadesi. What are you saying, Abba?
Woo. I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm good. You know what? You know who's cooked, actually? Apparently,
Uh-oh.
Gen Z are facing a job-pocalypse. So I read a fantastic article by The
Job-pocalypse.
Guardian. Yeah, so basically it's saying that according to a new study, business leaders basically are investing in AI rather than new hires. 4 out of 10 bosses in the study said that they're using AI to cut the number of employees. 2/5 said that entry-level jobs are basically reduced or cut. And then there was
Uh-oh.
another complimentary article that I read that basically talked about how there's a graduate job crisis. And it kind of gave the real story. And
Yeah.
essentially, it's not necessarily a graduate job crisis. It's basically a new entrance job crisis. Up until now, people have been comparing graduates to non-grads, but a non-grad who's 23 probably came into a better job market and has got work experience. But if you compare a graduate to somebody who's like 18 and doesn't go to university and just has to jump in, both of them are cooked, but obviously the non-graduate person is cooked worse. But essentially, both parties are also still facing an increase in unemployment. Yeah, I mean, I won't go to the advice portion just yet. I think let's unpack really and truly like what's going on. What are you seeing as a business leader when you chat to your other kind of business friends, entrepreneur friends about hiring? Is anybody out there really saying, oh, we can't wait to hire? Or is everybody saying really and truly like, how do we automate this with AI?
I feel like everyone's feeling the squeeze and feeling the pinch. And, especially if you sell to businesses or you sell to consumers, whoever it is, people are just spending less. And I think people are looking for ways to, become profitable or even just grow. And the only way that can happen is through cutting costs, and staff are like the most expensive cost. And I think
Yeah.
the culture around early careers has changed as well. Like there used to be like value in like developing a junior pipeline and like nurturing people and mentoring them and coaching them. Now people are like in distributed teams, they're working remotely. That's no longer like a attractive thing for you to do as a leader, and you probably feel really like stretched in yourself. I feel tired, and I think that's the sentiment of a lot of business owners and a lot of business leaders. So if someone is presenting you what feels like a kind of silver bullet solution in terms of AI automations and processes, why wouldn't you pursue that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think obviously AI is at a stage where it's decently smart. It's not a rocket scientist just yet, but it can replace a lot of, or it can augment a mid-level person to the point where an entry-level person is not needed. I remember being at my first internship and the mid-level to senior person was like, yeah, can you just do that admin for me? That's kind of gone. I mean, you just needed somebody who was basically competent enough to use a computer, had some education, so you knew they weren't going to blow up the machine, basically, right? And just do the kind of simple, dimple stuff, right? And then eventually you work your way up to eventually you're the mid-level person.
Yeah.
But those roles are kind of being augmented. Like I said, the mid-level senior person can now do a lot more work. So it's like, what is the incentive to hire somebody junior? Then compounded by all of that, a lot of companies are outsourcing. I feel like a lot of the AI layoff stories, a lot of that is an outsourcing story.
Very
We
true.
saw Microsoft lay off a bunch of people and then at the same time ask for a bunch of visas for overseas talent. So how are those two factors kind of like leading to these consequences? I don't know, but they're both compounding and working towards it. And I think I've spoken to somebody who is, in charge of a large conference that does like early careers. And they're like, listen, we're pivoting away from the hiring thing because most companies are doing AI and outsourcing.
Yeah.
And I think governments need to worry about this because eventually who is going to be the mid-level person if all companies are ignoring the junior talent? Like what does that do to a society when you're not funneling up the next generation? It's like eventually somebody has to be the mid-level senior person, right? They're always talking about we've got an aging society, but do you want your young people to be mass unemployed? Like, come on, like someone has to be thinking like grand picture, not just from like letting companies just do their individual self-optimization. And then eventually we end up in a society where everyone's cooked. It's like, come on.
But at the same time, like what percentage of like all corporate employers are picking up AI adoption so swiftly? I mean, I was thinking about simple things like moving to cloud-based working or, even like using collaborative tools, like using CRM systems. There are loads and loads of organizations who are still probably like filing stuff away in a cupboard in paper. I mean, there are ministers in Japan who are saving things on floppy disks. Like, yes, 100% AI is here and it's real and it's taking jobs. But what percentage of corporate employers are at the forefront of this AI innovation. I think there are still like a lot of employers who are like nowhere near even close, starting to completely reorg how their business runs because of AI. And if I were a young person, I wouldn't let these news stories about Accenture and Deloitte like freak me out too much. I'd be like thinking about industries that are just like, 10 steps behind, where
Hmm.
these aren't going to be conversations happening there for another 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, we've
Yeah.
been in startup land, we've been in like high performance land, London, big cities, all that kind of stuff. There are still companies where people in the C-suite have never touched a Google Doc, or like where there's
Right.
a sales team that doesn't even have a cloud-based CRM system. So I do kind of think that like it's hard to really understand like the true like scale of these changes when all the headlines focus on people that are like industry leaders, or by the nature of the business, consultancy, for example. They're desperate to cut costs because people are now side eyeing consultancy. Like, what value do you even bring? You're giving me like
Yeah.
strategy advisory. I can literally plug my accounting reports into AI, and it's now doing advisory for $14.99 a month that you're charging
Yeah.
me 50,000 a month.
I saw a hilarious story. I think it might have been Deloitte, and they essentially submitted some sort of, documentation or proposal, and it basically had like ChatGPT stuff still in it, and some of the studies were like, the ChatGPT hallucinations or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
obviously they got cooked for that, right? And then there was another article where like some of these consulting companies were bragging about the efficiencies of using AI. So a lot of their clients are like, well, if you guys are more efficient, can we have some of those cost savings passed on to us? It's like, don't be going out there
Awkward.
bragging. Yeah, don't be going out there bragging about how AI is so efficient. It's allowing us to use less people. Okay, well,
But
as a,
those companies
as
aren't passing their efficiencies on to their customers either.
I know, but we're all selfish, innit? Don't be out here bragging about it. And then when I'm like, all right, cool. So what? It used to cost you 50K to do this one article. Now it costs you 5 grand. Okay, so what do I get some of that saving, please? But the reason why you mentioned the consulting companies, there is a story about Accenture, which they did around 11,000 job layoffs. And basically, the reason why I bring this up is because the CEO came out and said staff must use AI or leave. And then basically, people who are less likely to kind of reskill were the ones who got chucked out. But going back to your graduate point, this is the thing about education that's very difficult to it's a very difficult thing we have to acknowledge, which is that you go to university and let's say you study English literature. University is not a boot camp to make you employable. It's a boot camp to maybe express, what you're interested in, learn about new things, become
Well,
a
it
better
depends what
person.
universe you go to.
I mean, but listen, even if you study economics, you are not ready to be plugged into an investment bank. Ready, you're not ready. You're not job ready.
Mm,
Nobody is job ready after university. You have
mm,
to go about and do some extra stuff. Like you don't know how to use APR. You don't know how to necessarily use ChatGPT beyond give me the answers for my essay. You don't know necessarily
mm,
how to do automation. And we're expecting because somebody is young, we assume that you're young, you understand technology inherently. Go figure it out. It's like, well, actually, they don't. A lot of people don't. Like
mm,
even me now, as a small business owner, I could probably go to a company and be like, okay, you guys are super inefficient. This is how the scrappy startups work.
mm.
But 21-year-old, I've been studying English lit. Does that automatically mean that I know how to come in and help the Japanese old school companies or these old small businesses automate? That means that
No.
like they need more education. They need to like figure out, what's happening now in a very fast moving environment. So understanding these tools, obviously it's a cliche, is important, but it might be the only thing that gets you a job. Literally, like your degree is a good box ticking to say, okay, I've got education, but it's
Yeah.
not actually a viable path now to automatically just plug me in Accenture, plug me in Deloitte. It's like, well,
There's a
no one
lot
wants
of
to invest in you anymore.
for me, I feel like that as well is like a signal of like not really having a clear strategy around AI adoption. It's like every
Yeah.
time a new technology comes, it's like when Technicolor arrived, all the studio bosses were like, gotta start making movies with color. Like, give me some scripts that take me to, the beach and like show me some sunsets. Like, you're just not really thinking with intention. You just want to like integrate something, or like, oh my God, internet, let's get internet, like quick. If you don't show me how you can be internet first in everything you do, then, you don't have a job. Like every, leap in innovation, like every paradigm shift is causing leaders to scramble and develop a narrative that they can then take to their board and investors and go, oh, did you see that bulletin I sent out? I said, unless
Mhm.
everyone's AI first, they're getting fired. And the board can go, yes, great, you've taken our feedback on board. But what's the actual strategy? What's the actual plan? And I think there are a lot of companies, and we see it as consumers, right, where they've adopted an AI tool. I feel like Gmail AI inbox summary is a great example of that. And it's now
Mm.
summarizing things that don't even need summarizing, whether it's an invoice that I need to pay or whether it's a
Yeah.
calendar event that the system itself has sent to me. It's now summarizing calendar event. And I just kind of think there's that panic around AI as well, where people are just like throwing it into this conversation, throwing it into the sentence. There's no clear strategy around it. And in fact, to tell someone, an individual, you need to, bring AI into your role, you need to be AI first, or if not, you're going to lose your job. It's like putting the responsibility suddenly on a single employee to determine how their adoption of generative AI tools can help the overall business strategy. That's assuming so many things. That's assuming that they, in their role, have enough insight over their team's plans, their team's strategy, their team's goals, how their team's goals fit into the wider company. They might have a really rubbish line manager who hasn't even kept them up to speed on all of those things. They might not even have the reporting capabilities, the dashboard capabilities to know all of that. So part of me just feels like a lot of those messages are just empty ways to prep for a future restructuring or a reorg. There's already a reorg on the horizon. There's already layoffs planned on the horizon. So they're just prepping it now by saying, get AI into your role, or if not, you're being fired. They're already going to fire you. They're already going to fire you. So just start updating your CV. That's all I'm saying. Just start updating your CV. Don't worry about how to integrate AI into this, that, or the other. Work on your LinkedIn profile. Start networking. Think about that business. Honestly.
Yeah, not sponsored by LinkedIn. But we'll leave that there. Thank you everyone for listening to this week's Techish. We really appreciate you tapping back in for a brand new season, and we will catch you soon, and potentially a live show, which we will give more information about in the very near future. All right, peace everyone. Bye. Okay, let's do a quick, very short Patreon story. UK Black History Month. A lot of people are saying it's been a bit of a damp squib, and that essentially we in the UK have basically caught a cold from America's flu. In the sense that the kind of DEI backlash has kind of really integrated its way here, even though necessarily our Prime Minister hasn't done any policy changes or anything like that. Obviously, somebody who works in inclusion, myself included, what have you seen?
What I'll say, purely from my own personal experience, I got signed to a really well-renowned speaking agency 5 years ago. 2020, around August, September, I'm already getting conversations about this company wants to book you in, this corporate wants to book you in, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. This is the first year since I've been signed to my agency. I didn't get any bookings, any inquiries.
To watch the full episode, subscribe at patreon.com/techish. You'll get access to all full-length episodes, no adverts, the chance to submit your questions into the show, and early bird discounted tickets to our live shows. Subscribe for as little as $5 a month.